Most men are terrified of the snip. What if I told you today's guest says it's one of the best decisions he's ever made for his health, his finances, and his relationships?
Balls Deep.
Welcome to Balls Deep, a humorous yet informative medical show with a mission of optimizing your performance in the bedroom, the bathroom, and the boardroom. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Pazona, a board-certified urologist and CEO of Pazona MD. We hope you enjoy. Now, let's jump right in. Stream team, welcome to Balls Deep. Another episode, Dr. Joe Pazona. I am here with a great guest, and we're going to dive into a topic that most men like to avoid, vasectomies. So our guest today, Micah Berg, is an entrepreneur. He is not like most men. He's put in hours that some of us, even doctors, can't imagine. And he's here to share his experience having a vasectomy. So, Micah, welcome.
Good to see you, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, enough people have heard me talk about a vasectomy, but it's another to hear it from someone who's actually had one. So walk us through when you were at this phase of life, like how did this topic even come up with your partner and what led you down that road?
Well, I think everybody at some point after you've had a couple of kids, I've had two,
that you're aware of.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and I was going to get there because that's ultimately how the decision was made. No, I'm totally kidding. But I had two kids and, you get to an age where you're like, well, that was fun. My son now is 20, but then was 16. My daughter's 10 at the time. Now she's 14. And I just knew I had put enough energy into these kids that I would either do a very bad job if we had another one, or regret it the entire time. So either way, I would do a bad job. So for me, it was a fairly easy decision. I'd had the kids, had the life, done that side of things, and gotten to an age where I was just ready to be free of those worries.
And I don't think enough men do that, where they stop and think of their future self in that very real scenario that we've talked about on this show before, which is you're one broken condom, one missed birth control away from a huge change in your life. I mean, at this stage, you were well out of diapers. You were at a kid who was on his way out of the house. Like starting over with an infant, that's quite a blow.
Well, the benefit would be my son could drive him to daycare or whatever, but I really wasn't going to go there.
Yeah.
I don't trust him to drive me, so I'm definitely not having him drive any kids.
Yes.
But also, you mentioned busted condom. The catalyst for this was, I think it's called an IUD. Mm-hmm. It has a 10-year shelf life, and I mentioned my daughter at the time was 10.
Yeah.
So the IUD was due to be taken out, which means hormones. Or a new IUD, which apparently is not fun. So rather than subject my wife to that, we decided that it was my turn for what I perceived would have been a difficult procedure. And as we'll probably get to, was the time of my life.
Yeah, and we'll certainly get into that.
Yeah, and before we go too much further, just so the audience knows, I'm a Marine, so anything I say that probably should be used against me in court can't, including expletives and fairly nasty things we might talk about.
Well, Micah, thank you for your service first and foremost. As an Italian from New York, you're in a very comfortable place.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Let the F-bombs fly. You mentioned, your preconceived notions before going into it. Dial the clock back and share what was going through your mind. How nervous were you? What were you afraid of before kind of walking in for that procedure?
We're on Balls Deep and we're talking about balls, and it's not a fun subject to talk about somebody manhandling. In your case, I actually looked for a female urologist and got doubly nervous. So I was like, well, she doesn't have balls, right? And so I don't care how long you've been at school, like. That one little sideways tap is how you correct your buddies when they say something wrong.
For real.
It doesn't have to be a very hard tap.
No, it does not.
And so I ended up settling on, well, let me look at review scores, and I'm probably going to go with a guy in this scenario.
Yeah. So certainly pain was a concern. Was there anything else you were afraid of, or sort of before you started diving into it, myths you had heard about a vasectomy that concerned you?
The swelling potential, the failure potential, bleeding. All the not fun things, and swelling around your testicles would have been less than ideal.
Yes.
And so, just making sure that whoever was going to do this vasectomy process had done it a billion times, could do it in their sleep, and felt very safe about that.
Would you be willing to share what your experience was like?
Are you sure?
Please do. I'm looking forward to this.
So there I was, up to my elbows in scalpels because he didn't have a sharp one. No, I'm kidding. I think it was a no scalpel vasectomy, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but it sounded intriguing. I'm pretty sure he used his teeth. He was down there I asked. He was down there for quite a while. I'm not sure what was happening. Some level of inspection. No, I'm totally teasing. Yeah. So the summary is, and I want to get into the details, but just so we summarize for the guys who want to skip all this nonsense, it was a non-event. I mean, I went in. I did with you the inspection. What do you call it? The
laughing gas, the nitrous oxide.
No, before that,
first did the consultation. Right?
Consultation, same day as the vasectomy, which was a breeze. That was 30 minutes, and you asked me all these questions to make sure I was making this decision with the education that I needed, which I really appreciated, and taught me some things I didn't know. 30 minutes later, I'm, on the table in my skivvies, or actually without skivvies. I was wearing a skirt at that point.
I'm pretty sure there's nothing below the belt when we did this. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to block that out. And so then he walks back in, he does the, snap with the gloves just for, effect, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Tells all the nurses to leave, which is when I got really, no, he didn't. I'm kidding. But it really was a non-event. I mean, truly, I think it was maybe 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. The numbing was almost instant. I didn't even feel, any stabs or any of that stuff. I think you did topical or something. I wish I knew more about it, but it happened so quick and painlessly. I went for the gas. The gas was a trip, man. That was so cool. I've never gotten that high that fast and then that sober, like sort of immediately after. I mean, I felt great.
It's pretty neat stuff, for sure.
So for the 15 minutes I needed it, I get some people are against getting high or any of those. This is really different. You get this, it's 5-10 minutes. You control your own level. And I really kind of got to blank out, which was hilarious when I get to the stories that we were talking most of the time. I don't remember a lot of that. So,
yeah,
I have my version of the story, but yours is probably different. But yeah, so I mean, from, let's call it laying down on the table to getting off the table, there was, for me, no pain, no discomfort, no weird pinching, none of that stuff. It was maybe 10 minutes, and I felt right as the rain afterwards.
Yeah. And we still talk today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're obviously one of my favorite people because, well, you're very gentle. And this
is during clinical hours in very professional setting, just to make sure everyone's going.
Yeah, it was. It was at 10 p.m., lights low. But tell me, how did you keep eye contact that long with me? I mean, I just remember being a little loopy looking down, and you were just in it to win it, man. I mean.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, from your perspective, it's like a very novel and weird experience, right? But for me, this is my game day, right? And you do a couple thousand of these just in a couple years, and you add that up over 20 years of operating. I mean, I don't think people realize, as surgeons, when we're in the operating room, we have the tunes going, we're talking, we're kind of in the zone, and it's almost this autonomous sort of nature. And like most things in life, if you overthink it or analyze it too much, you often make more mistakes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this is very much a field procedure for guys, and that's why we're able to do it through such small incisions.
Yeah.
But you were also high. Trust me, I was focused plenty on the tubes.
I just remember
there.
being very comfortable. I would ask you a question. You were fully aware of me, and we had a great conversation. And I mean, you had me by the balls, so I had to do what you said. I wasn't about to tempt fate with, whatever was happening down there.
That's how I make most of my friends, Micah.
Yeah, it was great. And then the nurse was there, and she was very reassuring, just making sure I had what I needed. And, because it could be anxiety inducing, and I felt the opposite. I really felt super calm, taken care of, very respected. It was great. It was great. So good job.
Awesome, man.
And at that point, you only had 300 5-star reviews. Now I checked on my way here. It's 1,200 or more.
Yeah. I mean, we're very blessed to have patients who are very loyal, and, I've really tried to think about the whole experience, and that's more a testament to the team, because I realize I'm just there for that small bit, but it's the people answering the phones and at the front desk and all the great staff that you came in contact with. So,
yeah. Well, and that's why I chose you was between somebody answering the phone, talking to me like a human, the great 5-star reviews. I mean, you figure if somebody had screwed somebody's balls up, they would not have 5-star reviews.
Usually those people don't last too long.
So it was comfortable from start to end.
Enjoying this week's episode on vasectomies? Well, if you're interested in learning more about what a vasectomy is like and to get all your questions answered, head to www.pazonamd.com and take a look at our vasectomy page where I answer all your questions with more wonderful videos. Thanks, and now let's get back to our show. What was the recovery like? I know that was sort of a concern as well, the swollen balls and all that. Any issues there?
You killed me with your post-op package. So it was like, I had the ice, I had to bring the jock strap and got the little Pazona MD ice pack.
Yeah.
So you branded my testicles, which was fantastic. But then after, in the instructions, I clearly remember it saying a 6-pack, 2 beers is the prescribed dosage, one for you and one for your balls. And I was dying because I exactly that.
Yeah.
I had 2 beers. I put one right on my nuts and I drank the other one and then just... I tried not to go nuts, pardon the pun, with how many beers I had. But I had a couple beers and just cycled them out, That was good. But post-op was great. I did not experience any pain. So I remember you called, it was probably the day or two after, checking on me. And I said, look, I feel great. Like, what should I not do? And that's when you were, careful to explain, like, don't jump up and down, go up the stairs, have sex, like all those kind of things.
Sure.
So I followed that, but I didn't feel like I needed to. I mean, maybe walked funny for 2 or 3 hours after the numbing wore off, and that was more in my head. Yeah. I will say I did follow your advice and wear the tight jock strap as a thing, and that I can tell that helped.
Yeah, having that extra support for sure keeps the swelling down, and we just don't want the boys bouncing around, not in that recently delicate situation.
Yeah, I think only in the shower was it just like any sort of discomfort was when I didn't have the jock strap on. So
when do you feel like you're kind of back to normal and all that discomfort was gone?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
Totally
Within a week or so?
Oh, not even a week. I think 2 or 3 days and I felt fine. I actually had to mentally tell myself to take it easy. It was a very fast recovery.
Yeah. And we'll get into your weightlifting regime
cool.
at another episode. What did this mean to your partner? Going in, I don't think guys appreciate that women really take on this burden of contraception.
Yeah.
What did it mean to her?
No hormones had to be, put through her body, which there's a litany of, weight gain and potential for cancer and all these risks. Right. And, I respect medicine and your field quite a bit. I will never say it's a bad thing, but if you can do it without extra pharmaceuticals and extra things, then you should at least consider that. And so that was probably the biggest relief, was knowing after we did, multiple sperm tests and all those things, that I was clean, not having to think about that anymore at all. And it was very relaxing. Sex is better when you don't have to worry about it. Sex is better when there's not artificial hormones tricking her body into some other state. It was just like freedom is the only way I could maybe describe it in one word.
So vasectomy equals better sex is the key line there.
And a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more. Yeah.
Well, seriously, I mean, I think it shows women that you care about them and you're committed about their health and their quality of life. Totally. I mean, it's, you want to turn on a woman, clean the dishes.
Totally.
And, this is the ultimate sort of, honeydew list of, you manned up and took one for her.
Yeah, totally. And like you said before, there's no oopsies happening inside or outside the relationship. Whether, I'm not judging any man, but if that's a thing, you're cleaning that up right away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Micah, we've got guys watching this show, looking at this camera, they're on the fence. What advice do you have for these guys to say, hey, let's move forward with this vasectomy? And, what would you tell an earlier version of yourself who maybe waited a little bit longer and played with fire for a bit?
Yeah, I should have done it earlier. I think I was, because we had the IUD, I didn't prioritize it, but I should have. I think once I think my daughter was 3 or 4 when I knew I was tapped out. Like this kid was all I could handle. And we had been through 2 babies at that point. So I probably would have done it as soon as I just knew, especially if you're in a stable relationship and your partner feels the same way. There's no reason to delay.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not a bad procedure. I would do it again. I won't go as far as say do this for fun, but it is so non-event that it's not something I would be scared of if I had to do it every year to stay vasectomized. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I made that up. You're welcome.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Micah, this is awesome. We really appreciate your candor. And, for the guys out there who are on the fence, I mean, hearing from a real person who went through this, that, hey, this wasn't a big deal. Like, in fact, it was maybe somewhat enjoyable in a weird sort of way.
Well, only with you, Joe. Winky face.
It's Dr. Pazona.
Yes, sir. Until after the vasectomy, yes.
Right? Well, Micah, this is awesome. Are you willing to come back and do another episode here and chat about some stuff?
Yeah, I would
awesome.
love to.
Well, Stream Team, Micah's journey does not end here. Stay tuned for next week's episode where we're going to dive into his journey with everything from hormones, peptides, GLP-1s, and how to perform at a really high level as a busy father and executive. So, as always, show yourself a little bit more love and kindness. We're all works in progress, and these are opportunities to grow. Thanks, and have an awesome day.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Balls Deep. If you'd like to join our Stream team of listeners, please click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. For more information about our practice, Pazona MD, please visit PazonaMD.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. The show does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed through this podcast or any of the social media channels related to this show. The use of this information is at the user's own risk. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.